welcome. This is Ansby Hall. In case some of you are like, wait, is this Ansby Hall? I'm like, still Ansby Hall. This is the presentation on Israel, my trip over there this past spring. I'm Caroline Johns. For those of you who don't know me, I teach middle school Sunday school. I have brought my middle schoolers with me because what I shared with them in our class, we don't necessarily have somebody who's the teacher and somebody who's the student. We are a community of faith and a community of learners, and that is what you all will be today as well. However, we recognize that is not how you normally do Ansby Hall. And so what I shared with the middle schoolers is we are going to do a format today that they are very comfortable with. And so they are going to help facilitate this morning and help lead. And we talked a little bit about how that is one of the beliefs in the Presbyterian Church is that people in the congregation should be leading the congregation. So they will be fulfilling that role this morning, and I'm super thrilled to have them. They are your best kept secret. So I went to Israel this past year. This was through a partnership with AASA and AIFL. AASA is the Association of School Superintendents. Actually, it's school administrators, but it's the National Superintendent Association. I serve as superintendent of schools in the Northgate District, and we serve Bellevue and Avalon. AIFL is the American Israeli Friendship League. They are based out of New York. So this was a partnership between the two. I had the opportunity to travel with superintendents from across the country. It was an amazing experience, which you'll hear about this morning. But the first thing I want to do is introduce you to your guides this morning. Oh, my computer shut off. Give me 1 second. I'm going to have the kids tell you just very quickly who they are, and then I'm going to share something about them with you. So who of my group wants to go first? I knew Ian. I almost looked over there. Go ahead, Ian.
My name is Ian Quaka. I'm in 6th grade, and I go to Watermark Classical Academy, which is right down the road.
So let me tell you something about Ian. Ian asks the hard questions. Like, you all may think you're tackling hard questions in Sunday school. You're not tackling hard questions unless you have Ian with you. I mean, he puts these questions out there, and one thing that we've talked about in Sunday school is we've learned to be very comfortable. And you can just add chairs. There's a chair back there, I think, open, and then you can add chairs in. Thank you. We tackle very hard questions, and what we do is we put them on the board and we have discussion about them, and then we let them percolate. And then we come back to them, and we come back to them, and we come back to them, and it's amazing the insights that these kids have when we do that. So Ian's one, though. He'll drop the question bomb. Celia.
Hi, I'm Celia Minier, and I go to school at Circle Academy.
So Celia.
Can you repeat that?
Oh yeah, you know what, Dylan, do you want to hand her the microphone, please? Sorry about that. Thank you for bringing that up.
Hi, I'm Celia Minier, and I go to school at Swigley Academy.
Yep. So Celia is a very kinesthetic learner. She's a mover. She's a swimmer. Sometimes she'll be doodling. She's also an artist. And you may look at her and think, I'm not sure if she's paying attention. Oh, she's paying attention. And what she does is she thinks about things and then drops these insight bombs on us that we're like, whoa. Next one, go ahead. We'll just go right across. So, Dylan.
I'm Dylan Davenport. I'm in 8th grade. I go to Fox Chapel.
You won't be shocked to know that Dylan has a very strong working knowledge of the Bible. And one of the things that he brings to the class is as we talk about parts of the Bible, he's able to make those connections throughout and really enjoys thinking about like world leaders and history and how those connect into our faith. I'm telling you, I'm going to invite you later to come to Sunday school, and I'm telling you now, bring your A game. Amelia.
Hi, my name is Amelia Hayden, and I'm an 8th grader at Swigley Academy.
Okay, so let me tell you about Amelia. Actually, I'm going to do Amelia and Kate together because there's something very similar, and those two are tight friends. So I'm going to go ahead and let Kate introduce herself.
My name is Kate. I am in 7th grade at Quaker Valley Middle School.
Okay, so Kate and Amelia are my thinkers. So what they do is we'll talk talk about something that's really challenging, and they look at me, and I know when that look comes, they go, and then I know the wheels are turning, and they just bring these great insights and connect them to what's going on in their world and what's going on in life. So they just do this amazing job of taking our lessons and saying, how does that apply, and then asking further questions. So, like I said, you got a powerhouse group here today. Okay, so what I would like you to do is in your groups, your guides will help you. We want to know who here has been to Israel. If you've been, you're going to tell your group one word to describe your feelings about it. If you haven't been, how do you think you would feel about going? And you have 1 minute to do it. Go.
So we're gonna go
One word. It's on my bucket list of place I would like to go. And I'm just really sad that right now it's a place that's too dangerous to go. I think it would be magical, honestly, just walking where Jesus walked.
I've just been to Israel, and I also am curious to see about the
So if you have it there,
I've been to Israel.
I've never really thought about
and
it.
he's my dad.
Different.
Just like you said, I mean, so magical. Same thing as.
So is that so if you haven't been, what's one word?
It's from the time of Jesus.
What do you think?
It's actually one of the things.
Woo! I've been trusting that.
Like how would you find out?
It is not, and it's still very much. But
Okay, if you can finish up your thoughts.
that's Temple Mount.
It's just been such a troubled part.
Okay, Dylan, if you want to have the microphone ready. Also, there are extra whiteboards. Those, if you have a whiteboard, if you want to help your guides kind of capture some of the thoughts. So who has some interesting thoughts? Oh, kids know too. I'll wait. We'll wait. You can, we do actually. We set rules and then we break them. That's what we do because we're middle school. So you can say more than one word. Go ahead. Can you take it over to Kate, Dylan? Thanks. And just wave. Dylan will bring the microphone around. They are recording this. Go ahead, Kate.
So our group said that, our group said that it felt meaningful, amazing, and different.
Different?
Mhm.
Good. What else?
Oh, and about going to Israel, one word was unlikely.
Unlikely. Yeah. Things, and we'll talk about that. Things have changed rapidly. So, who else wants to mention something? There's a seat right over here if you want. Oops, I'm sorry. Annie, do you want to talk about what you talked about? I could just overhear you.
Oh.
Really good. Or you can just pass it to somebody in your group.
Oh, I just said Israel, the trip to Israel has always been on my bucket list, but now it does seem unlikely in the near future. It just seems, very sad that it's a place that's cut off from most travel now.
Yeah, their travel has shut down, their tourism. Anybody else? Go ahead, Ian.
So my group said that. So only one person in my group has gone before, and she said connected, like because of all 5 of the major religions are it's like the capital of religion, and everyone else who hasn't gone said they were curious.
Yeah, and what city did we talk about where has the major religions have their some of the most holy sites? Any of my kids, just yell it out. Jerusalem, right? And that's amazing, but also can create a lot of complications. Okay, so thank you all. This is an article that I wrote for AASA's magazine, and I'm going to read to you just very quickly the first part of it. The article is called The Prejudice Within, Did you feel safe there? It was the most frequent question I was asked when I returned from my trip to Israel in March. But let's start from the beginning. Prior to the pandemic upending the world, I received a flyer in the mail advertising a trip to Israel for educators. It was a country I knew little about, but it sounded foreign and exotic. I pinned the flyer to my bulletin board and periodically glanced at the pictures from part of the world that was so unfamiliar. Occasionally I asked myself whether I would have the courage to travel there, and I couldn't help but wonder, would I feel safe there? So one of the things I talk about in the article, and I brought a copy, and there's a copy back there, is that sometimes, and I obviously think about this from a Christian lens, travel to foreign places, and especially places that make us feel a little uncomfortable, can really result in a lot of growth and help us uncover some of the biases that we might have that we didn't even realize we had. I will tell you, our middle schoolers this morning, did we feel a little uncomfortable today? Yeah.
Definitely.
Are we already enjoying ourselves? Yeah. So there can be a lot of growth. And, when I thought about Israel, I was looking at this beautiful country, but I grew up at a time when, there was we were seeing a lot on the media of war images. Now, remember, this trip was pre-October 7th, so that is the time frame. It wasn't like right now where we're now back to that place. However, I had these kind of bias and prejudice that I hadn't even realized until I started thinking about going over there. So what I want to talk about is what I found when I went.
Pretty amazing that you wrote it on October 2nd, too.
Yeah.
I wondered if anybody was going to notice that.
Whoa.
I actually didn't write it then, it was published that week.
Wow.
Yep. Which really kind of speaks to the fact that it is a place that is very dynamic, very complicated, and ever evolving. And I'll talk a little bit more about that as we get further in. So I already introduced the middle schoolers, just what we're doing. I traveled obviously in March. I shared with the middle schoolers my trip. And I always ask them for feedback at the end of the year. What do they want to study? We decided to go. We did Book of Revelation last year, which was amazing. And then we decided to go back to the start of the Bible, and really we look at the themes that run through the Bible. We're doing the early books, looking at ancient Israel. They chose to study modern day Israel. And then how does that apply to our lives? Obviously, the study of modern day Israel took a very interesting turn this year, and we'll talk a little bit about that as it became a much more challenging topic for them because it is rapidly changing. And I took this picture. When we were over there, the protests were happening about the Supreme Court changes, and I happened to just get this picture of a young boy who was walking home from one of those, and it looks a lot like my son. I have a son who's about the same age, and it looks similar to him. It made me really think about the difference of experiences my son has growing up here versus somebody who's growing up over there. All right, so our first stop was Tel Aviv. And what we're going to do now in your groups, this, by the way, I should mention, some of these protocols we're using actually come out of Harvard University's Graduate School of Education. They have a research arm of that group called Project Zero. Northgate serves as the primary Pittsburgh partner for them, so we use a lot of their work to inform what we do in Sunday school. So what your guides are going to do now is we're going to take 1 minute. You can come up here and look at this, but we want you to tell them, what do you notice just looking at this picture? What do you notice about the city of Tel Aviv? Go.
So we're all gonna ask one question, and we're gonna look at all
Looks
of
like
the
that it's
Growing, look at the.
growing. It's like, yeah.
Right.
Their zoning codes. Now they're getting bigger.
Write something on one word. Modern growing. Palm trees.
You mean spread out.
It's a big city.
Celia? Okay, go ahead and finish your thought.
Places in the back are
And then you add that to the gray sky.
Hey, Dylan.
Yeah.
All right, so what do you notice about Tel Aviv? Celia's going to start us off with her group. And adults, you can talk. I mean, it's fine. You can also answer. Go ahead, Celia.
We said that there was like a lot of like cranes for building and there were low buildings.
A lot of, well, let's even start with that first one. What's happening in this picture? You said there's a lot of cranes, so there's a lot of what?
Like construction.
There's a lot of construction across the country. We saw that everywhere we went. Very good observation. Go ahead.
And then we said, it looks like any city it looks like any city in the US. It's like not that different. It just has a little bit more of low buildings than Pittsburgh and other cities do.
Yeah, less skyscrapers, more low buildings. Very good. Thank you. Which group would like to share next? Go ahead, Dylan.
You said it was flat, urban, evolving, dense, and beige.
Yes, I did notice that too when I was over there. It is very beige,
Yeah.
very dense. Does anybody know how big Israel is? Like what state in the except for my kids, you're not allowed to answer this one. Sorry.
Rhode Island.
New Jersey. It is about the size of, the whole country is about the size of New Jersey, which plays into a lot of their geopolitics. So keeping that in mind, you know, this is a very small space. You want to hand it back to Ian, please? Thank you.
There's a reason for
My group said crowded concrete construction, growing, surprising, modern, and flat.
Surprising. What was surprising?
Yeah, I was looking at it, and what sort of struck me is, everybody can hear me, we have this big road going right through the middle of it, that one side is fairly flat and one building's established on the left. Growth on the right. But hearing about Tel Aviv all the time, and it's an urban, it's a sprawl, you can't see the end of it, right? It just keeps going, and I said, well, it's a little bit of everything. I mean, it's old, it's new, it's flat, it's divided by this big, I can't even see that. Is that a highway or a rail line or something?
In the middle, that's a road.
So I'm surprised by the amount of things I can pack into this picture.
Yeah, very, I mean, I can't even summarize that better. It was perfect. One of the things the kids, you know, not having familiarity with Israel, you know, we always do an activity at the beginning. We say, what do you know? And some of them kind of thought Israel was a poor country, kind of underdeveloped. So this was a little surprising to some of the kids to see just how developed it was.
And
Where's the
wasn't
microphone?
this the capital of Israel before it was moved to Jerusalem?
I believe so. I hope so, because I told him it was the capital initially and then was like, no, I'm wrong.
It was.
There you go. See, I wasn't completely wrong. So this is another picture of Tel Aviv. You can see it sits on the Mediterranean, and it is very much a metropolitan area. It's described as being very vibrant, very modern, very dynamic, and multicultural city. Oops, I'm sorry, did I not? All right, so the first place that we visited when we got there was a place called Save a Child's Heart. And what this is, it is a charity that they treat children suffering from congenital and rheumatic heart disease who have little access to care in their own countries. So they do have Israeli children who go to them for treatment. They have Palestinian children who come. There were a number of children there from African countries, and they have volunteers. You can sign up and volunteer there for like 2 weeks, a month, and then they work with local doctors to perform these surgeries. And they do, like if a child's very sick, the nurse will travel to that country and help with the transport of that child back. So if you think about it, this was day one, and I landed in the country. I will tell you, people did ask me all the time, did you feel safe? And my answer was always, I didn't feel unsafe. I didn't feel the level of comfort I feel here, but I never felt like I was in danger or that there was impending danger or anything like that. But it felt very foreign. But this was my first day, and as you can see, it was very different than what I pictured, and they're really doing amazing work, and this is a place that I hope to be able to return to someday and actually stay for several weeks and be able to volunteer there. And one thing I found too with the Israelis is they really do have a strong culture of caring for others. There are certain things we see in the media all the time. However, my experience there on the ground was this constant, we are looking to how do we care for the people in our community and beyond our community.
Did you find a lot of diversity in the people?
Not so much now. What do you mean at that place or just in general?
Some black-skinned people. But
There were a number of families there from Africa
just at this place.
who were there for treatment for their children. Yeah.
But in the country in general?
In the country in general, I'll show you, let me come back to that in a minute. Generally, no, now, because of how the trip was structured, we had certain organizations we were visiting. I'll talk about where I saw diversity, but not necessarily, I felt like there was some separation there, so, in terms of the groups. Now I'm gonna say totally the opposite about this place. So this is a youth village. This is a school where the kids actually live there. They focus on village activities, and I took their focus areas right from their website, which is humane and democratic education, tolerance, acceptance of environment, and connection to the land. So they actually do kind of farming activities. Very strange, they have peacocks that just kind of roam the campus, which was very interesting. And the best was, of course, here we are, the American tourists, and somebody's like, can we, pet the peacocks? And you just saw the kids like, yeah, go ahead. Because apparently they are not friendly animals.
Was this near Tel Aviv or in Tel Aviv as well?
Tel Aviv, yes. So what I found, I took away from this is I have a group of students here who are a group of students at the school. And they live in pods, so 4 kids to a group. And in each one, they try to have 1 Israeli, 1 Palestinian, and then 2 international students that are part of the group. And they do that purposefully to help develop those relationships. And the kids really spoke so eloquently. I wish I'd actually written it down at the time, because I'm not going to say it nearly as eloquently as they did. But they spoke about that need to live in community and build those relationships so that they could communicate with each other. And they talked about how their problems over there are so complicated that this is where they have to start. They have to have that personal relationship and be able to communicate with each other. I think that there were 2 kids, a couple kids in here from the United States. I think one was from Texas, one was from California.
So Caroline, are they living at the village?
They do. They live there. Yep.
So it would be like a foreign exchange program? Why are they there? Are they there for?
They come there to go to school. So it's, I think that, I don't know what the application process is. Like those kids aren't coming, I wouldn't say it's this sort of exchange, because those students don't come over to the United States necessarily, but they just make the students from over here make the choice to go attend that school. So. This is Kibbutz Magal. It is a little bit north of Tel Aviv, and And it's actually between Tel Aviv and Haifa. And I don't know if anybody familiar with what kibbutzes are? Anyone? Okay, I wasn't either, a little bit. So these actually started as agricultural communities. And the way they were set up is you shared everything. So they would all eat together. They shared all the work together. They divided up, who takes care of the children, who's out farming. Everything they owned was shared. Now that has changed and modernized. There are people who live on this particular kibbutz who do go out and work in Tel Aviv. They're close enough for them to do that. But they do have like multiple generations who've been part of this community. So this particular one is known for the Netafim plant in their Greenhouse Innovation Center. So what they've actually developed there is they have the world's leading irrigation company where they develop drip irrigation, and that has then moved out into all parts of the world. So, it sounds like this nice kind of almost, backward little place, and then you realize, nope, they're innovating, and those innovations are impacting places far and near. So this was the children's house that the little ones go to. The older ones now go to school. They don't go to school at the kibbutz, but I don't know if you can see it, there's little faces peeking out. I love the top right one because you can see these are very young children. And I'm not sure where they were going, but they were like on their way from one place to another. And they're not lined up, there's not an adult right with them. They're just walking. Here comes the random community dog. He comes up, they pet it, and just, everybody keeps moving along. And I thought, in our country, we'd probably be like, oh no, don't touch the dog. Like, there's gonna be a lawsuit. But it just really was very child-friendly. I mean, you wanna talk about an ideal environment for children to explore and just be themselves. This really was it. Down at the bottom, that is part of the children's house. You can see it would essentially be like our daycare. That's where the kids are going. During the day, they are exploring. I had one, I should have put it in here. There's this one little boy looking at me like, I don't trust you. Yes, Ian?
I'm sure the kids loved the independence they were given there, because in America that would never be a thing.
Mm-hmm. What do you think the value is to a child being given that kind of independence early on in
It
life?
makes them not feel like they're the lowest of the hierarchy triangle.
So do you think it makes them feel like they bring value to the community? Would that be fair?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Anybody else have any thoughts on that? Okay. If something comes up, let me know. All right. We then went up north to Isfiat, which is a Druze village. Who here is familiar with the Druze community of religion? Okay, good, it wasn't just me. So this was the mayor of the community, and I put the picture at the bottom right. We ate a lot of food. This is very important in Israeli culture, is hospitality and having it was just lovely, healthy, delicious food, and a lot of it wherever we went. And as you can see here, this is the location. It is up pretty far north in Israel. And one of the things that the reason why I added this picture is that the location I was standing in the background you could actually see into Lebanon, Jordan, and Syria from that. It's kind of a higher up area, but that gives you an idea of just how close these countries are to each other, for better or for worse. The Druze community, so this is a little bit about them. They are a unique religious ethnic group. Their tradition dates back to 11th century, incorporates Islam and Hinduism. They are closed off to outside people. You can't say, I want to join this religion. That's not an option. And they rarely marry outside of their own community. And so you can see who some of they believe in God, the prophets, and so they share some commonalities with us, but they are a very small, closed community.
Are they Jewish?
small. I don't know numbers, but they are small. And, yeah, and I think this is kind of, this may be their largest population. I believe there is a smaller population somewhere in South America. I don't know a ton about them, but that is their main area.
How did they end up being on your trip?
I have no idea.
You just got taken there, right?
Yes, I just went with the agenda.
Incorporating Islamic Hinduism, I think that would connect.
Okay, so this is a children's village. This was, again, thinking about that culture of caring for others. This is a place where this is children whose families are unable to care for them themselves. Doesn't mean it's not, don't think about the American system. Doesn't mean those kids have been taken from their families. It just means the family right now can't take care of that child. And it could be an extended period of time. They can go live at the children's village. The top, you see they have like a storage area where that's where the kids go and get their supplies, backpack, shoes, clothes, and so forth. They actually live in family houses. So you can see at the top right, there's the living room. Down here you've got kind of like a computer work area, laundry, because there's a lot of kids, and a bedroom. In each of the houses, there is a mom and dad. It is a married couple. Sometimes they have their own family, so their kids would live there as well. And there was a major Pittsburgh presence. So this is, I can answer the question on this one. This is how we ended up visiting the Children's Village. There is strong support for Children's Village in the Squirrel Hill community here. So first of all, at the bottom left, you can see more food, lots of food. To the far right, that's Zippy Kapoor. She is the executive director for Classrooms Without Borders, which is located here in Pittsburgh. I refer to her as, quote, force of nature.
Big time.
So if you've met her, you've met her.
David was buddies with her.
Yes, she's fabulous. And she took us all, a group of us, to lunch, and I mentioned I was going to be in Israel, and she said, oh, well, then I will see you there. And I was like, in Israel? And I thought, she's not joking. So she arranged this visit, and that middle picture, they were setting up to have a working bakery business, and those are students who were visiting for 10 days and volunteering from Swiftly Academy. So lots of Pittsburgh connections going on there. All right, so my guides, ready for your next question. So the question is, I've shared with you some places already in your group. I want you to talk about, if you were to go to Israel and you had to choose one of those places to go, where would you go? Which one would you pick and why? I will give you, I'm only giving you 1 minute. Go.
All right, so this is all of us. You mean outside of the places that she went? That's sort of a memory test.
I think I want to go to school for adults, because the way she describes freedom and experiences, it would be interesting to compare and contrast between.
All myself, I'd like to go. All of them, me and I would like to go and see the place where they have the free range. You know, the big area where they have, kids can wander around and be loud when kids couldn't wander.
Okay, if you want to go ahead and finish up your thoughts. I'm going to move to this side of the room this time.
Yeah.
Forming.
Situation.
Where's the microphone at? What happened to the microphone? Oh, Dylan, you got it. Good. You want to take it over to Amelia or Kate, please? Thank you.
Giant building, food group.
All right, Amelia. Do it.
We sort of had a little bit of everything.
Okay.
Two of
all people said the youth village. One person said the children's house, and then one person said the children's house. Wait, was it like the two children's places?
Okay, the
They-
youth, yeah, the school, the residential school and the children's village.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Probably could be arranged through Zippy, so be careful what you wish for.
We're ready to sign on.
Perfect, she'll get you there. Kate?
We mentioned like a lot of the places that had like the house with like the kibbutz. I can't remember all the names, but the house where the children would go if like their parents couldn't take care of them.
Yeah, so both the kibbutz and then the second place, the last place.
So it sounds like lots of interest in how their culture, how they raise their children is kind of what I'm hearing is of interest. Okay, great. All right, we're gonna move on to the holy sites. We had the opportunity to visit the Sea of Galilee, and this, I'm gonna make sure I get the information right, so I'm gonna read my notes. The picture on the left is the Sea of Galilee boat, also more commonly known as the Jesus boat. So this was found in 1986 by two brothers from a local kibbutz. They discovered the ancient remains of this boat on the shore of Galilee. It's 27 feet long, 7.5 feet wide, and it was constructed by 10 different kinds of wood, and it was built so that they could fish kind of close to the shores. Radiocarbon dating does date the boat back to the time of Jesus. And it fits the description of the boats that are described in the Bible. Interesting fact, I can't tell you if this is true or not, but apparently the brothers reported that the day they found it, there was a rainbow in the sky. So it was pretty incredible to see. This is an even more recent discovery. If you look in the background, there's actually a hotel there, and they were looking to expand the hotel, and when they started to do the dig, they discovered this, which they believe to be the home of Mary Magdalene. We believe this is an old synagogue, and it is believed that this would be a synagogue that Jesus would have taught in. And so I'm going to show you, you can actually see the floor. Yeah, it was pretty incredible. And so to the right, that would have been like their system for, it would be evidence that it was a fishing town. They would have kept the fish in those areas. And you can see in the back, the hills, and actually, it's hard to see it here, but there are caves up there. One of the things that we talked a little bit about in our middle school class is I was sharing with the kids the experience of growing up in the faith and going to Sunday school. You read the Bible and the places don't totally feel real. And all of a sudden I'm like, wait a minute. These are real places you can go to. And I will say that was one of the most amazing experiences of being in Israel, is visiting the holy sites. Next, we spent the second half of our trip in Jerusalem, and this is a really interesting city, obviously. The picture on the left is actually a picture I took. They have a Holocaust museum, and it is designed so that when you kind of go through in a sequential order, and then it opens at the end of a long hallway, and it just opens to the outside. You walk out and you are seeing Jerusalem, which is very powerful after the experience of going through that museum. And I should know what's on the right. If I don't, we drove by. We did have the opportunity to visit the Western Wall. So this is a place where we did see a lot of people from different backgrounds there. It is separated when it's hard to see in here, but the right side is where the women approach. The men are on the other side. And it's the only remains of the retaining wall surrounding the Temple Mount, the site of the first and second temples of Jerusalem. So we actually had the opportunity. It's interesting. This is the only place I saw this. The men and the women enter in separate entrances, but once you're in, you're commingled. But then you separate again to approach the wall. most powerful place to visit. I have tons of pictures. There's just beautiful places throughout. The place at the top left is where it is believed that Jesus was laid out. The top right is the burial site, and then the bottom is the crucifixion. So needless to say, just being there is so powerful. And I shared with the kids, it was really weird. This area down here, you can kind of see it, but people line up and they can go and actually kneel down and pray there. I didn't choose to do that. I just was kind of standing back and taking it all in. And I was telling them, I just suddenly had this feeling of like this warmth that went through me, which was interesting. And then this is Old City Jerusalem. So this is believed to be the path that Jesus would have taken to the crucifixion. And you can see a couple of the doors from the Stations of the Cross in the Old City.
How did you take that without people?
It just wasn't crowded. I mean,
Wow.
I do have another picture of me, but I didn't think anybody came to see pictures of me there. So yeah, and it's narrow, just like it looks. I mean, I did squeeze the photo in, but it is actually fairly narrow. And then I thought, lighter note. We did the Dead Sea, so we're looking back on Jordan, and you do float. And when they tell you to wear flip-flops, they mean wear flip-flops. So it's not a sandy beach. It's because of all the minerals in there. The ground outside of it is completely hard and very hard on your feet. And I didn't listen. I wore my shoes, and when I came out of the water, just from the water getting on my shoes and the minerals, it just hardened my shoes, so I had to throw them away. So yeah, that was a really neat experience. So at the time that we were over there, we were over when the protests were happening about the proposed Supreme Court changes. So the top left, you can kind of see that was a protest that was happening, wasn't too far away from us. I showed you the young man with the flag, and then right on that is from the bus, you can see the protesters on the street. Now, this is kind of an aha moment for me, because what we see on the media very much differed from what I experienced over there. You know, we were obviously seeing reports of these and protesters disrupting, and if anybody lights a fire, that's definitely getting on news. This over here, there was music playing, there was singing, there was nothing, you know, they were trying to get their message across, but there was nothing that made me feel like that is unsafe or anything like that. It was more about community coming together, very concerned about the direction that their country was heading. And so that was the feel of being over there at the time. I will tell you, the day we left on a Saturday. They did have some protests and actually closed the airport down the next day. So our timing was good in terms of leaving. Again, it wasn't meant to hurt people, but it was definitely meant to be a disruption to the country. I think it was closed for 2 or 3 days. So this was actually last week in Sunday school. Like I mentioned, we are talking about modern day Israel. We had Mr. Gal Imbar come visit with us. He is an Israeli. He lives in Tel Aviv. And he is the executive director of a company called 412 by 972. Those are obviously you know the area code of Pittsburgh. 972 is the area code over in Tel Aviv. And what he does is he works with companies that are Israeli, that are looking to have a Pittsburgh presence. So he is over here quite a bit. And the kids had an opportunity to ask him questions. So one of the things that we talk about in Sunday school is when we're talking about some of these really complex topics, we want to be very careful not to jump to that's right, that's wrong, that's good, that's bad. But rather we talk about like how do we understand the experiences that people are having and understand the context that they're happening in. And so they had a lot of questions for him, and you can see they go up to the board then and kind of engage and talk about what they're hearing and provide some feedbacks. One of the things that really kind of struck us, we were talking a little bit about this morning, because of course we ran out of time. Like I always tell the kids, I'm like, we need at least 2 hours every Sunday. It hasn't happened yet, but we were talking about how this made what's happening over there real and personal. He was talking about his experiences and how his family has been impacted, and a little bit about that kind of low-level fear that exists over there, which is very different. And if we're going to understand the situation that's occurring there, understanding those types of things become very critical, because we can't necessarily understand them from our perspective. And we talked about how the kids actually made a connection between 9/11 and October 7th, which I thought was very interesting, but we talked about some of the differences. So, it's hard to relate to what they're going through, but also I think very important for us as Christians to think about these things and how we view them through the lens of our faith. So that is it. Thank you all for coming this morning. Thank you to my amazing middle schoolers. They're the best. We have decided as a group that people, if they want to join us for Sunday school this year, you can. The only thing I would ask is that you email me ahead of time, because we don't want a bunch of adults showing up one day. We want to have one or 2 adult visitors who join us. And so that's just for scheduling purposes. But we certainly welcome you to come. I will tell you, it is the most fun I have had in Sunday school ever. It has also been for me the most challenging, just because the topics we hit on are challenging. I've learned a lot. I learned from them. I hope they learn from me. And the last thing we're going to do is, I did ask the kids, and they were ready for this. I don't spring things on them. Is to share a little bit about what they have enjoyed about Sunday school. So, to the middle schoolers, do you want to come up here and have that discussion, or do you want to stay up here? I'm seeing yes. Okay, so what we're going to do is they're going to come up, and you're going to observe their conversation for a minute. So come on up here.
You want to get a chair?
Yeah, just pull your chair up. Do you want to bring your microphone up?
I feel like we're at
You can circle around. You don't need to. Yeah, you don't need to do. That's perfect. That's exactly what we're asking. All right. So I asked them the question this morning. I said, "What have you enjoyed most about our Sunday school group?" So who wants to kick us off? Go ahead, Ian.
I would definitely say my
Hang on, Ian. We're going to have you use the microphone, okay? Thank you.
I would definitely say my favorite thing about it was the Bible Project videos that we watch for each book of the Bible, and they really clear things up, and they're fun videos.
Is that something, the Bible Project, something people should look at?
I definitely think so.
So BibleProject.com. It's a wonderful resource. Yep.
I would definitely say my favorite part of it is the discussions that we get into. The topic might start off as just like a question, and we just like give an answer, but then it will most of the times turn into a discussion that you leave thinking like, oh wow, like I didn't realize that. What was the I think it was when we were talking about how like the 3 major religions were all in Jerusalem. We drew all of these maps on the whiteboard, and I asked her to take a picture of it, because it was just after leaving and then going through figuring out what all the parts were, it was like, oh wow, I didn't realize that.
I enjoy that everything feels connected. I feel like whenever we talk about something, I feel like there's somehow, it feels that it's part of the same thing of everything else we talked about, and that it all goes together, which is pretty cool. And it feels like it's really deep every time. It feels like there was something that I never would have thought of, or I never would have realized, and it always comes up and it makes sense.
I really enjoy enjoy how deep we get into the conversations. Like Amelia said, well, it will just be a question, but then it will go on, and it will like soon become like a big, huge thing that we will like study more in the future.
I like our the different ways we discuss things. Like we'll often like start a topic with something called like this, just like a random question on the board, and we'll do something called chalk talk where we go up to the whiteboard and we can't talk, but we all like write down our ideas and we can respond to each other. And I think it's really cool because you just get this one question, and like how everyone else was saying, like you start off with something so simple, and then everyone starts talking and sharing their ideas, and you're like, well, like I never would have thought that deep about like something that simple.
Did you ever, beautifully said, did you ever think you would get up in front of a room of adults and talk about this? With a microphone? Okay, one more thing, Ian, then we gotta let them go to church.
The last thing I would say is we make scenarios of a middle school group, and they really help me, like, I think they really help us think of how we think of all the books of the Bible and how we can implant it in our lives.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you all for being here this evening.